Gentlemen, welcome back to Mids from the Middle of the Midwest. I'm your host, Nixon the Dark. Continuing on our theme of Civil War II, this time it's female. Ladies and woke gentlemen, if you want a legitimate civil war, you will need an army. Your last act of war was in 2020 when you rioted across the United States. This was an epic fail. Not only did you alienate most normies, you attacked your own strongholds, the urban centers of the United States. This is the Civil War equivalent of a bitchy housewife who starts smashing plates after yet another argument with her doormat husband. As we mentioned in the prior segment, the woke can't take over the military. They had that opportunity under Biden and they wasted it. We're a little contrarian here at Mids. I suspect that what we've just been witnessing is the end, not the beginning of a civil war. But let's assume there's still a chance for a second civil war. Why wouldn't we? We could be wrong about this totally. Women must persuade men to fight on their side. So will woke gentlemen. How can women persuade men to fight? More to the point, how can women persuade men to do anything? Sex works better than all forms of persuasion combined times like at least 1,000. You know it and she knows it. Men literally have an idiom for it. Don't care, got laid. Men will acquiesce to insane demands from women if they get sex. Unfortunately, the whole point of the woke ideology is that men are evil, men don't deserve sex, men don't deserve to be in positions of power and authority. Remember how I said all politics is sexual? That's not my idea. Totally true. It's been out there for a while. What about the inverse? This is where it gets really interesting for the woke. Not all sex is political. Sometimes sex is just sex. But if you're woke, everything is political, including and especially sex. To embrace normie sex, men and women just getting together and making babies, is to betray the woke cause. Women cannot enjoy sex with average men while simultaneously believing that those men do not deserve to be in charge of companies, of households, even camping trips. Sex is surrender. So women must persuade men into fighting without being able to use sex. Unfortunately, that's not an option. For the woke, being nice, kind, decent, asking politely, that's the same as being submissive. That's almost the equivalent of sex. Karen don't fuck and Karen don't do nice. This is also not how the machine's built. It's not a good thing or a bad thing. It just is. When women get burned by the cock carousel too many times, or they become sick of their doormat husbands, they become enslaved by resentment and anger and rarely surrender to kindness. This leaves social manipulation. This is the only thing the woke ideology has left. All forms of manipulation are based on shaming men in one way or another. Lying, bullying, doxing, mobbing, these require shame. But shame only works on men with toxic shame. Shame is the one substitute you may be able to use to get men to do things on your behalf instead of sex. We've discussed toxic shame a lot in the past. No More Mr. Nice Guy by Dr. Robert Glover, still a foundational text for all men who deal with it. That is, men being ashamed of their maleness. When you're in this situation, you are very easy to manipulate. I had it for years without realizing it. Almost every man must deal with it. There's an interesting trend going on with toxic shame. It is not at all a coincidence that increasing numbers of men are recognizing and addressing their toxic shame, just as female shaming tactics are wearing off at the political level. Not only does woke hate logic, it's oblivious to game theory. The woke ideology by nature rejects the one thing it needs to overthrow masculinity: masculinity itself. Conventional, unapologetic, not ashamed at all, toxic as fuck masculinity. The only men who stay woke year after year are the ones who are so riddled with toxic shame that they will never stop believing women when they get shamed. You know what we call them. So it's our opinion the woke ideology is now at a major political, social, and sexual crisis point. For increasing numbers of men, the shame has worn off. The tactics don't work. This leaves two choices, the same two you always have: sex or violence. Go back to normie sex and admit defeat, or go forward with violence. Obviously, tragically, they will go forward with violence. You will see a lot more violence in the near future, but this won't work to advance the cause of the woke ideology. As we've said, women always give the job of violence to men. The problem with the woke ideology is that woke violence is feminized. It's women's violence. It's enshittified. It's Timu violence. Game theory strikes again. By rooting out toxic masculinity, the woke ideology loses access to that top shelf, barrel aged male violence that goes down smooth. As an aside, one of the reasons that nice guys finish last is Timu violence. The lone gunman is someone who can't manage or understand his relationship with shame, cowardice, and violence until he's so far behind that it's a lost cause. At that point, the only option he sees is a drastic act of violence that he has no idea how to handle or follow up. One big, loud, drastic act. You see it everywhere in our culture. This dwindling number of men on board for the woke cause is why I posit that this civil war may be ending and not beginning. Trump's election in 2016 was Fort Sumter. COVID and the rioting in 2020, that was Antietam and Gettysburg. The assassinations, it's too early to make that comparison, but we'll see. I'm not saying I'm right about this, but see if you clock this trend too. Thanks for listening. Like, subscribe, and final thought. I won't predict yet that woke is on its last legs, but it's certainly acting like a wounded animal or a human right before a nervous breakdown. Unfortunately, the death spiral could continue for years, especially since the right now fights like women too. The worst result for everyone: perpetual and shittified female civil war. The bright side is we're all used to it by now. Regardless, I always recommend the male value formula. Get jacked, learn game, build clout. Stay in fighting shape, and if you learn game, you will understand toxic shame and how women are so effective at manipulating men who suffer from it. Take care.